Hi, and welcome back to Becoming Extraordinary with Chirag, where action meets ambition. And we are talking about what to say when we go out and meet people for networking. Now, the key to any good conversation is being prepared. So, if you've seen the previous video, you know that I've asked you to identify the people that you need to meet, and you have looked at their LinkedIn profiles. So, at that time, when you're looking at people's LinkedIn profiles, you've jotted down their names and their company, where they are, designation, etc. And you've just broadly seen कि नाम क्या है, designation क्या है, company क्या है, location क्या है, because ये चीजें matter करती है. Done. Good job. Kudos. Next step is, now you need to start reading their LinkedIn profile. What do you need to do over here, yaar, when you are researching the person? A basic no-brainer can be where they have studied, right? It starts from their schooling, it starts from their undergrad and their masters that they've done. The next thing you want to do is see where all have they worked and how long have they worked. So hypothetically, if you were to look at my profile and you would see that I worked for BMW, and you'd be like, hey, I love the brand and I wanted to know how is it working for BMW. Now, the other question you would be able to ask me was that I've worked for media as well, and you can ask me that what made you shift from media to automotive. That's a interesting jump. So you're trying to find different things to talk about, because right now, when you're reaching out to people, don't want to go and have a boring conversation. This is one thing that I would always recommend, and I train all my mentees on this, that you're taking somebody's time from them, and the other person is giving you their time, so we need to value it and make it worth their time to have a conversation with you. And the reason why I say this is because conversation lead to connections, and connections will lead to job offers. So it is a personal interest vested. And jokes aside, I think conversations lead to connections is what I want you to remember in this scenario, because eventually, if you're able to impress somebody in a conversation, this skill is going to take you a long way. Because getting a job is one thing, and then getting into that job and doing well is going to be another thing. And when you work with a team. When you work in an organization, there will be cross functional conversations that you will need to do. So you need to start developing that muscle. And I come from the school of thought that, yeah, communication and people skills take you a long way ahead, and that comes from curiosity. So थोड़ा क्यूरियस होना ज़रूरी है, क्वेश्चंस पूछना ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि जब ये सारा चीज़ें हो जाएगी, एंड इवन इन ड्यूरिंग द इंटरव्यू प्रोसेस एंड एवरीथिंग यार, एट सम पॉइंट you got to remember that it is also the person at the end of the day on the other side who matters, right? um, Imagine this scenario, example deta hu, that there is a person whose skill set is, let's say, 8 on 10 इन टर्म्स ऑफ बहुत अच्छा काम करता है, सारे स्किल सेट हैं। और फिर एक और बंदा है जिसको मैं इंटरव्यू कर रहा हूँ, एंड हिज स्किल सेट इज 7 on 10, बट ही इज ऑल्सो somebody who has a great vibe, has a good personality. I'm not saying कि बेस्ट फ्रेंड्स बनाने, बट इन जनरल यार मजा आता है काम करने के साथ, मजा आया मेरे को उससे बात करने के साथ। I would be more inclined to go with the 7 on 10 rather than the 8 on 10, because at the end of the day, मेरे को एक साल, चाहे उसके बाद मैं नौकरी छोड़ गया, आप नौकरी छोड़ गए, whatever happens, मेरे को इसको ट्रेन करना है, मेरे को इसके साथ काम करना है. I can't have like a boring conversation on a day-to-day basis, right? And likewise, there would be many managers who are like me as well. And yeah, on the contrary, you can say that there'll be many managers on the 8 on 10. But agar mera skill set is 7 on 10 hai, to how do I challenge the guy who's ahead of me? So if the argument is that, then how do I level the playing field? I level the playing field through my conversation skills, through my people skills. So it's very important to ensure that you're doing the kind of research that you do, where you're able to build rapport. And I spoke and touched upon different aspects, right? That ये research कैसे कर सकते हैं. I will create a very long, in-depth video on how to do pro-level research on people. But just to give you the pointers that I'd see that, okay, where have they worked? How long have they worked for? what prompted the jump and everything. And one of the basic questions that you can ask anybody, any level, anytime, right now, is what are they doing in terms of understanding more about AI, and how are they integrating AI into their job. It is not your first question until and unless you are looking and working in that space specifically, but it is definitely a third, fourth, fifth question somewhere in between, or definitely a question worth having in a longer conversation. So क्या बात करनी है कि अंदर जब हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे, वन थिंग इज दैट आई विल ट्राई एंड फाइंड आउट एज मच इन्फॉर्मेशन एज आई पॉसिबली कैन. यार जॉब के लिए इमीडिएटली नहीं मांगना, क्योंकि अगर मैं किसी से इमीडिएटली जाके जॉब मांगूंगा, दैट पर्सन विल बी लाइक, यार मैं तुम्हें जॉब क्यों दूं, आई डोंट नो यू, आई डोंट हैव एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ कनेक्शन विद यू, and you're just blatantly coming and asking me for a job. So I would never ever enter a informational or a networking conversation with the intent of asking for a job. And I told you why, because this, the other person can question that, why should I do this? Eventually, if you were to just ask me ki Chirag, can you refer me to someone, yeah, when I refer you to someone na, to मेरी credibility line पे है. तो मैं आपको अगर जानता नहीं और मैं आपके लिए वाउच नहीं कर सकता, तो मैं अपनी गर्दन आपके लिए लाइन पे, एवरी, आई डोंट वांट टू हियर इट फ्रॉम एनीबॉडी एल्स दैट, ओ दैट पर्सन वाज नॉट गुड. So that's why my first vetting I will do when I talk to you. That is very important. The other thing within that sphere that I wanted to talk about was that with the pressure you take away of not asking, and you tell yourself कि मैंने job नहीं मांगनी है. I just want to go out and understand कि you're working in the field that I want to work in. How did you get in? What was your interview process like? How many rounds of interviews did you give? How did you prepare for it? What is the kind of what is a day in life for you like? What are the cool projects that you're working on? What are the challenges that you're trying to navigate? What can you tell me about the company? Basically यार वो वाले क्वेश्चन पूछो जो गूगल और चैट जीपीटी तुम्हारे को उसके आंसर्स नहीं बता सकता. राइट, कल्चर भी अगर आप पूछोगे तो कौन पागल आदमी है जो अपनी कंपनी के बारे में बोलेगा कि घटिया कल्चर है, कोई नहीं बोलता. राइट, सो उससे वो वाले क्वेश्चंस पूछो जो आपको गूगल और चैट जीपीटी नहीं बता सकते, एंड दैट्स वेयर यू विल हैव टू डू दैट रिसर्च, रीड अप एंड गो विद दैट काइंड ऑफ इंटेंट. Right, what is the biggest challenge that you are working on right now, without giving me any confidential information? Or I want to start my career in automotive. I wanted to understand that, how did you make that shift? That is the only question I want to ask. I'm not asking for a job. um, and not having that job mindset of asking for a job is going to take away the pressure from your mind. Because जब हम लोग ये कॉन्वर्सेशन को अप्रोच करते हैं ना, तो हम एक सर्टेन गिल्ट के साथ करते हैं कि यार मेरे को इस बंदे से कुछ निकालना है, मेरे को इससे कुछ चाहिए. एंड विद दैट माइंडसेट वो कॉन्वर्सेशन कभी अच्छी जाती ही नहीं है. सो टेक दैट अवे, एंड दैट्स हाउ वी मेक द कॉन्वर्सेशन. इनिशियली वी मेड इट ट्रांजैक्शनल बिकॉज आई वांट समथिंग आउट ऑफ इट, एंड दैट्स द गिल्ट दैट आई यूज्ड टू गो विद कि यार मैं बात क्या करूंगा, मेरे को तो जॉब चाहिए. बट मैंने कभी उसके आगे सोचा ही नहीं यार कि मैं इंफॉर्मेशन गेन कर सकता हूँ. इंस्टेड ऑफ आस्किंग फॉर अ जॉब, ask for a reference, that can you introduce me to one more person who you think I should be talking to, and it would be good for me to gain more knowledge and information. That is the golden ticket that you take away from this conversation when you go and meet somebody. Ask for one more reference, because that's how you slowly build your network. So without too much of gyan, I just explained to you how I would research and how I would approach a conversation without feeling guilty, what my goal of that conversation should be. And I will leave you with this, because that's the next video I'm going to start with. That when you're networking, the mindset needs to be that of doing research, and approach it like a research project, and you will see that the entire game shifts and it becomes so rigged in your favor. If you want to find out more about how to approach networking as a research project, watch my next video.